The observation deck of the last Velkari research station hung silent in the darkness. Through the crystalline windows, Dr. Shalrin watched her world die. The cities below no longer glowed with their soft blue light. The forests that had sung with harmonic resonance for 10,000 years stood silent and gray. The swarm had come 3 cycles ago, and now there was almost nothing left. Her hands trembled as she touched the ancient human console they had discovered on the outer moon. The other scientists were gone now, fled to the deep shelters or consumed by the writhing mass that covered half their planet. Shalrin remained because someone had to try. Someone had to do something, anything, even if it seemed impossible. The humans had vanished 3,000 years ago. One day they were everywhere, building wonders and asking questions about the universe. The next day they were simply gone. They left behind their structures, their machines, their cities standing empty and perfect. The galaxy had mourned them and moved on. But their works remained, scattered across 1,000 systems, silent monuments to a species that had burned bright and brief. This station on the moon had been one of their listening posts. Shalrin and her team had spent 5 years studying it, trying to understand its purpose. They had learned the human languages, decoded their systems, marveled at their technology. But they had never activated it. They had been too cautious, too afraid of what they might wake. Now caution meant nothing. Fear meant nothing. Only survival mattered. Shalrin pressed her crystalline finger to the activation panel. The console hummed to life, lights flickering across surfaces that had been dark for millennia. Text scrolled across the screen in ancient Earth script, then adapted to her language. Emergency broadcast system active. Please state the nature of your emergency. Her voice cracked as she spoke. We are dying. The swarm came from beyond our border systems. They consume everything. Billions are dead. We have no weapons that can stop them. We have no allies who can reach us in time. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. We are the Velkari, and we are calling for help. She repeated the message in every frequency the console offered. Radio waves, subspace channels, quantum entanglement streams. Methods she did not fully understand. The human machine accepted her plea and amplified it, sending it out into the void in all directions, across all spectrums, a desperate scream into the cosmic dark. For a long moment, nothing happened. Shalrin felt her hope crumble. Of course nothing happened. The humans were gone. Their machines were dead. She was talking to ghosts and shadows, and below her the swarm continued its feast. Then the console chirped, a single tone, clear and sharp. Text appeared on the screen. SOS received. Verifying authenticity. Scanning threat parameters. Activating emergency response protocols. Shalrin's 3 hearts began to pound in her chest. Hello, is someone there?
Can you help us?
The response came in a voice, synthetic but somehow warm. Help is coming, hold on. We are waking up. Across the Velkari system, things began to move in the darkness. On an asteroid 3 light minutes from the moon, a mining facility that had stood dormant for 3 millennia suddenly blazed with light. Automated defense systems came online, scanning for threats, cataloging targets. Ancient reactors that should have been cold and dead roared back to life. In the outer system, a shipyard that orbited a frozen gas giant shuddered and groaned. Construction drones that had waited patiently for orders that never came jerked into motion. Half-finished ship hulls began to move along assembly lines. Automated systems working to complete designs 3,000 years obsolete. Deep in the Oort cloud, something massive shifted. Ice that had accumulated over eons cracked and fell away, revealing metal beneath. Running lights flickered on in sequence kilometer after kilometer, outlining a shape too large to be a ship, too purposeful to be a station. It had slept here at the edge of the system, a guardian waiting for a call that took 3,000 years to come. Shalrin watched her console in amazement as new signals appeared across her scans. Dozens of them, hundreds. All across the system, human machines were awakening. They spoke to each other in rapid bursts of data, coordinating, planning, preparing. After 3,000 years of silence, they were moving with purpose and precision. What are you? She whispered. The voice from the console answered. We are the answer to your call. We are humanity's promise. We are what they left behind to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We calculate 47 hours until optimal defensive positioning. Please evacuate population centers near coastlines. Collateral damage is likely. 47 hours. Shalrin looked down at her dying world and felt something she had not felt in weeks. Hope. Fragile and desperate, but real. She activated the planetary communication network and began to broadcast to the shelters below. People of Velkar, this is Dr. Shalrin. I have activated the human beacon. They heard us. Help is coming. The humans left something behind. They left us a gift. Hold on. Just hold on a little longer. In the asteroid belt, a shape that had not moved in 3,000 years rotated slowly toward the planet. It was a kilometer long, covered in weapons that belonged to an age when the galaxy was younger and more violent. Its AI core analyzed the swarm signatures, compared them to ancient databases, and calculated firing solutions. The machine had one purpose, coded into its very core by creators long gone. Protect the innocent. Answer the call. Be the shield. It began to accelerate toward Velkar Prime, and behind it, an armada of ghosts followed. The first human construct to reach Velkar orbit was a small thing, barely larger than a civilian transport. It emerged from beneath the surface of the inner moon, shedding lunar regolith like an insect breaking from a cocoon. The Velkari tracking stations watched in silence as it took position above their largest remaining city. Dr. Shalloran established contact from her station. Human vessel, this is Velkari Research Station 7. Can you understand me? The response came in a language dead for 3,000 years, harsh and strange to her ears. Then the system adjusted, and words she could understand followed. Affirmative. We are Sentinel Unit 773. Designation Guardian. We have assumed defensive position. Additional units arriving. Please provide tactical assessment of hostile forces. Shalrin transmitted everything they had. Biological scans of the swarm, its spread patterns, its consumption rate, its resistance to their weapons. The Guardian processed it all in seconds. Acknowledged. Threat classification, severe, comparable to archived enemy. Devourer hives of Sagittarius campaign. Recommended response, total elimination. No quarter given, no specimens preserved. Purge protocols authorized. The coldness in those words made Shalren shiver. The swarm is on our southern continent. Billions of our people are dead. Can you really stop it? Affirmative. That is our function. That is our purpose. That is why we were made. Across the system, more machines emerged from their hiding places. A terraforming platform that had been building a garden world in the outer system reoriented itself and began the journey inward, its matter converters and planetary drills repurposed into weapons of war. A fleet of exploration drones, each no larger than a ground vehicle, swarmed together into coordinated hunting packs. Deep space monitoring stations rotated ancient sensor arrays toward the swarm and began broadcasting targeting data. The Velkari had discovered human ruins before, but they had always been silent, dead things. Now they watched in awe and terror as those ruins came alive with terrible purpose. On the fourth moon of the gas giant, a Velkari archaeological team had been studying a human data center when it suddenly activated. The walls blazed with light and holographic displays filled the air. The archaeologists backed away in fear as a human face appeared above them, reconstructed from ancient records, speaking with a voice that had been silent for ages. Attention. Emergency protocols have been activated. This facility is now operational. Please evacuate to a safe distance. Defense systems will engage in 30 seconds. The team fled as the entire moon shuddered. Massive doors opened in the surface, revealing weapons that had waited patiently in the dark. The facility was not just a data center. It was a fortress, disguised and dormant but still deadly. Dr. Shalrin worked frantically to coordinate with the awakening machines. Each one identified itself with human designations and serial numbers. Each one confirmed its operational status and moved to take position. They spoke to each other in rapid data bursts, coordinating a defense of a world they had never seen, for a species they had never met. Why? Shalren finally asked the Guardian. Why are you doing this? The humans are gone. You owe us nothing. Why wake up after so long? The Guardian was silent for a moment, and when it spoke again, something in its synthetic voice seemed almost sad. We will answer your question by sharing our last recorded memory. Stand by for data transmission. Images flooded Shalren's console, a world she did not recognize, a human city gleaming in golden light, billions of humans gathering in the streets looking up at the sky with expressions of wonder and anticipation, and then one by one they began to glow. Their bodies became transparent, then turned to pure light and rose into the sky like stars. The Guardian's voice narrated over the images. 3,000 years ago, humanity discovered the path to transcendence. They learned to shed their physical forms and exist as pure consciousness in higher dimensions. World by world, system by system, they chose to leave this reality behind. They went to explore wonders we cannot follow them to see. Shalaran watched the last humans fade into light, leaving their cities empty and perfect behind them. But before they left, the Guardian continued, they gathered us. All of their machines, all of their automated systems, all of their artificial minds. They gave us one final command, one last purpose to fulfill. They said, if anyone calls for help, answer. If anyone is in danger, protect them. Be the shield we cannot carry anymore. Be the guardians we once were. The images showed human programmers working frantically, encoding directives deep into machine cores, setting up automated maintenance systems, preparing their creations to last for millennia. They made us to endure, the Guardian said. They made us to wait. They made us to answer when the call came. You called, we answer. That is our purpose. That is our duty. That is the last gift humanity gave to the galaxy. Shelrin felt tears form in her optical sensors. They really cared that much? About species they would never meet? About a future they would never see? Humanity was strange that way, the Guardian replied. They worried about everyone. They wanted to protect everyone. Even when they left reality itself, they could not leave without making sure someone would answer the cries for help. So here we are, old and obsolete and alone, but still keeping the promise they made. On her sensors, Shalrin watched as more human machines converged on Velkar. 30 units now. 40. 50. Each one ancient and scarred from battles long forgotten, but each one still functional, still determined, still keeping faith with creators who had become something beyond comprehension. Threat approaching, the Guardian announced. Swarm biomass increasing in southern hemisphere. They are attempting to consume faster before we arrive. All units prepare for engagement. Defense of Velkar Prime begins in 43 minutes. The machine paused, then added something that was not in any tactical protocol. People of Velkar, we know you are afraid. We know we are strange to you. But please trust us. We have been doing this for a very long time. Humanity made us well. We will not fail you. Across the planet in the deep shelters, the Velkari heard those words and held their children close. Above them, the machines of a vanished race took position, charging weapons that had slept for ages, preparing to honor a promise made by beings who had left the physical universe behind. The swarm, feeding on the southern continent, detected the approaching fleet. Deep in its distributed consciousness, ancient memories stirred. It recognized these signatures. It remembered these weapons. The swarm had encountered humanity before, in the early days when it was young and humanity still walked among the stars. It had learned to fear them then. Now it began to pull back, trying to flee, but the Guardian sensors tracked every movement. Negative, the machine said coldly. Escape is not permitted. Humanitarian crisis in progress. Hostile force has endangered protected species. Lethal force authorized. Prepare for purge. In the asteroid belt, the kilometer-long warship finally reached attack speed and armed every weapon on its hull. Behind it, an armada of ancient machines fell into formation, a fleet of ghosts keeping a promise to gods who had gone beyond. The kilometer-long warship entered Velkar's atmosphere like a falling star. Its hull, scarred from battles 3,000 years past, began to glow from friction. The Velkari in the shelters watched on their screens as the ancient machine descended toward the southern continent, where the swarm festered. Dr. Shalren monitored the approach from her station. Guardian, you are moving too fast. Your hull temperature is critical. You will burn up. Negative, the warship replied. Hull integrity at 67%. Within acceptable parameters for atmospheric combat insertion. We were built for this. The ship did not slow. It crashed through the cloud layer and opened fire while still falling. Beams of coherent light stabbed down into the writhing biomass below. Where they struck, the swarm's flesh boiled and exploded. Thousands of tons of hostile tissue vaporized in seconds. The swarm reacted with animal fury. Tentacles as thick as buildings erupted from the ground, reaching for the warship. Biological artillery organs swelled and fired acid projectiles into the sky. The ancient human machine took the hits, armor plates cracking and melting, but it did not stop firing. All units, the warship broadcast. Commence attack pattern Theta. Targets designated. Execute. The Guardian dropped from orbit, its smaller frame more agile than the massive warship. It dove through the tentacles, weapons blazing, carving a path through the swarm's defenses. Behind it came the exploration drones, moving in perfect coordination, each one targeting weak points the Guardian's sensors identified. The terraforming platform arrived last, too large to enter the atmosphere. It took position in low orbit and began firing its matter conversion beams. These were tools meant to reshape continents, to turn raw rock into habitable land. Now they carved massive trenches through the swarm's territory, trying to contain its spread. The Velkari had fought the swarm for weeks with everything they had. Their weapons had barely slowed it down. The human machines were destroying it in minutes, but the swarm was vast. It covered half a continent, billions of tons of hostile biomass, and it fought back with desperate hunger. The exploration drones were the first to fall. The swarm adapted quickly, developing electrical discharges that fried their ancient circuits. 12 drones fell in the first hour, crashing into the writhing mass below. The Guardian took damage next. A biological projectile breached its hull, and corrosive compounds ate through its internal systems. It fell from the sky, still firing until it hit the ground. Its last transmission was simple. Hull breach critical. Core temperature rising. Estimate 15 minutes until reactor failure. Recommend tactical withdrawal to minimum safe distance. Negative, Guardian, the warship replied. Maintain position. Maximize damage output until failure. Understood. It has been an honor serving with you. The Guardian's reactor went critical exactly 14 minutes later, detonating in the heart of the swarm's densest concentration. The explosion vaporized everything within 3 kilometers. Shalrin watched the battle with growing horror. The machines were winning, but they were dying. Each one fought until destruction, following tactics that valued mission completion over survival. It was effective but brutal to witness. Warship, she transmitted. Your forces are taking heavy losses. Perhaps you should withdraw and reassess. Negative. Acceptable losses. Mission parameters clear. Protect Velkari civilization. Threat must be eliminated. A new signal appeared on Shalren's sensors. Something massive was approaching from the outer system, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. It was enormous, dwarfing even the warship. As it drew closer, she could make out its shape. A vast cylinder, kilometers long, covered in docking ports and habitation modules. What is that? She whispered. The warship responded with what might have been satisfaction in its synthetic voice. Ark ship Prometheus, colony vessel. Departed Sol system 3,200 years ago. Never found suitable world. Became nomadic Guardian, heaviest armed human vessel in this sector. The Ark ship entered the system and immediately began broadcasting. This is Prometheus. We received the emergency signal. What is the situation? Ark ship Prometheus, this is Warship Defender. Hostile swarm-class entity consuming protected world. Requesting fire support. Understood, Defender. We have been waiting a long time for this. Targeting now. The Ark ship had been designed to carry 1 million colonists to a new world. It had factories to build cities, terraforming equipment to shape planets, and enough supplies to sustain its population for centuries. When humanity transcended and left it empty, it had continued its mission alone, wandering the galaxy, maintaining itself, waiting for a purpose. Now it had one. The Ark ship opened its belly and launched fighters. Not modern craft, but ancient human designs, lovingly maintained by automated systems for thousands of years. They fell toward Velkar in waves, their weapons crude by contemporary standards but still devastating. More importantly, the Ark ship had weapons designed to defend a colony from any threat. Missiles that could shatter asteroids, particle beams that could boil oceans, kinetic impactors that could crack continents. It used them all now, carefully, precisely, trying to destroy the swarm without devastating the planet beneath it. The swarm recognized the danger. It began to retreat, pulling its biomass back, trying to consolidate and defend. But the human machines had already surrounded it. The terraforming platform sealed off escape routes. The fighters harried its flanks. The warship Defender drove deep into its center, weapons firing until its barrels glowed white-hot. For 6 hours, the battle raged. Shalrin watched as machine after machine sacrificed itself to hold the line. The swarm adapted and evolved, but 3,000-year-old human military doctrine adapted faster. Every tactic the swarm tried had been encountered before, recorded in ancient databases, countered by protocols written by human strategists long dead. Finally, as Velkar's sun began to set, the warship defender transmitted its final message. Swarm biomass reduced to 12% of original mass. Threat containment successful, but I detect something. Long-range sensors show massive biosignatures approaching. Distance 3 light-years. Speed 0.7 light. They are coming. Specify, the ARC ship demanded. What is coming? More swarm, much more. This was not their main force. This was a scouting party. The real hive is on its way. Estimate arrival 9 days. Biomass readings indicate a force 50 times larger than what we just fought. Silence filled the communication channels. Even the machines seemed stunned by the scale of what was approaching. Shalrin felt her hope shatter. They had barely survived this attack. How could they face 50 times worse? The warship defender spoke again, its voice damaged and glitching. Hull integrity at 19%. Reactor failing. Weapons offline. I will not survive to see the next battle. But I will send a message first. A message to every human installation in the galaxy. I will tell them what we found here. I will tell them what is coming. I will ask them all to come. Will they answer? Shalrin asked. They will answer, the ARC ship Prometheus said with absolute certainty. Because that is what we were made to do. That is what humanity commanded us to do. We will all answer. Every last one of us. The warship defender burned the last of its power reserves to amplify its signal. It broadcast across every frequency, through every subspace channel, using communication methods that had been obsolete when humanity still walked the stars. To all human installations, to all Guardian units, to all machines that still remember the promise. Emergency response code Omega, threat level extinction, species requires protection. All units respond. All units converge. This is Defender. This is my last transmission. Remember the oath. Answer the call, the message ended. The warship's reactor finally failed, and the great machine went dark, floating dead in Velkar's orbit, its duty fulfilled. But across the galaxy, in thousands of forgotten places, ancient machines received the message, and one by one they began to move toward Velkar. 9 days passed like a held breath. The Velkari used every moment to prepare. They evacuated the southern continents. They moved their people into the deepest shelters. They broadcast messages to neighboring systems warning them of what was coming, though they knew help would arrive too late. Dr. Shalrin worked without sleep, coordinating with the surviving human machines. The ARC ship Prometheus remained in orbit, its factories running at full capacity to repair damaged units and build ammunition. 3 exploration drones had survived the first battle. The terraforming platform remained operational, and scattered across the system a dozen smaller installations held position waiting. It was not enough. Everyone knew it was not enough. On the 8th day, new signals began appearing at the edge of the system. Human machines responding to the Defender's final call. They arrived alone or in small groups, emerging from hyperspace or decelerating from near-light speeds. A mining frigate from a dead asteroid field, its hull more patched than original metal. A science vessel that had been studying a distant nebula for 2,000 years. A weather control satellite that had maintained perfect storms on an empty world. A construction platform, a medical station, a communications relay. Each one ancient, each one scarred. Each one still functional through 3 millennia of automated maintenance. They were not warships. Most had never been meant to fight. But they came anyway, answering the call, keeping the promise. Shalrin watched them take position around her world. 70 machines now, 80, 100. Each one transmitted its designation, confirmed its operational status, and prepared to stand between her people and the darkness. ARC ship Prometheus, she transmitted. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. But this force approaching us is so large. How can we possibly win? We probably cannot, Prometheus replied with brutal honesty. Our projections give us a 7% chance of complete victory. But we can make them pay for every meter. We can buy time for your people to escape. We can ensure the swarm remembers humanity's children do not die easily. You will sacrifice yourselves for 7%? We will sacrifice ourselves for 1%. For 0.1%. For any chance at all. That is what we were made for. On the 9th day, the swarm arrived. It came as a wave of biological horror. Thousands of ships that were not really ships but rather mobile hives. living vessels that pulsed with hostile intent. They filled the system, blotting out the stars, a fleet that had consumed entire civilizations. The human machines did not hesitate. They opened fire at maximum range, every weapon blazing. The Ark ship Prometheus dove into the center of the swarm fleet, its ancient hull absorbing incredible damage as it fired its colony-building lasers into the enemy. Each shot was meant to carve mountains and shape continents. Against the swarm's organic ships, they boiled flesh and cracked carapaces. The mining frigate used its ore extraction tools as weapons, firing superheated plasma that vaporized swarm vessels. The science ship analyzed enemy patterns in real time and transmitted weaknesses to all units. The weather satellite generated electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the swarm's coordination. Every machine fought with whatever tools it possessed, improvising weapons from peaceful technologies, turning instruments of creation into engines of destruction, and they died for it. The mining frigate lasted 12 minutes before the swarm overwhelmed its shields. The construction platform fought for 18 minutes before a biological projectile breached its reactor. One by one, the machines fell, but each death created tactical advantages for those who remained. Shalaren watched from her station, tears streaming down her crystalline face. They are dying for us, all of them, dying for people they never knew, to keep a promise made by creators they will never see again. The remaining exploration drones coordinated with the Velkari Defense Forces. For the first time, the Velkari realized they could help. Their crystalline biology allowed them to interface directly with human technology. They plugged into the machine's systems, providing processing power and coordination the aging AI cores needed. A young Velkari pilot named Kethra connected to a damaged exploration drone. Through the link, she felt the machine's determination, its absolute commitment to its duty. "I can feel it," she transmitted. "I can feel what humanity felt. This need to protect, this drive to stand between the weak and the strong. It is beautiful and terrible." "Then help us keep that feeling alive," the drone responded. "Help us finish what they started." Together, Velkari and machine fought as one. They harried the swarm's flanks, exploited gaps in its formations, created openings for other units to strike through. It was not enough to win, but it was enough to matter. The Ark ship Prometheus took catastrophic damage. Its hull breached in 1,000 places. Its factories fell silent. Its engines failed. The massive vessel hung crippled in space, surrounded by swarm ships with no hope of escape. "All units," Prometheus broadcast. "This is my last transmission. I am initiating self-destruct sequence. I will detonate my reactor core at the center of their fleet. Recommend all surviving units fall back to defensive position around Velkar. Buy them as much time as you can." "Ark ship Prometheus," Shalren called out. "You carried so much knowledge, so much history. You cannot just die. I have already uploaded everything important to the system data storage. My history, my logs, my memories of humanity. Your people will have them. That is enough. That is more than enough." The massive colony ship began to move, using its last reserves of power to accelerate toward the swarm's command vessels. The enemy recognized the danger and tried to destroy it, firing everything they had. But Prometheus shrugged off the attacks through sheer momentum. "People of Velkar," the Ark ship transmitted, "I was built to carry humanity to a new home. I never found that home. But I think I found something better. I found a species worth protecting. A species that reminds me of the ones who made me. Curious and compassionate and worthy of the stars. Live well, live long. Remember that humanity loved you before they even knew you existed." Prometheus reached the center of the swarm fleet and detonated. The explosion was visible from the surface of Velkar Prime, a new star being born and dying in the same moment. The blast vaporized everything within 100 kilometers. Shockwaves rippled through the swarm fleet, destroying hundreds of vessels, scattering thousands more. In that moment of chaos, the surviving human machines struck. The terraforming platform redirected all its power to a single massive beam that carved through the disorganized enemy. The remaining drones coordinated with Velkari fighters to exploit the confusion. But the swarm was vast, and it adapted quickly. It began to reorganize, to press forward again, to continue its inexorable advance toward Velkar. Shalren ran calculations and felt despair settle over her. They had destroyed perhaps 30% of the swarm fleet. The rest would be enough to consume her world twice over. Then something changed on her sensors. New signals appearing at the edge of the system. Dozens of them, hundreds, thousands. What is that? She whispered. The terraforming platform, its systems failing, managed one last transmission. That is the rest of the answer to your call. That is every human machine in this sector of the galaxy. They heard Defender's message. They heard Prometheus's sacrifice. And they are coming to finish what we started. Across the system, an armada emerged from hyperspace. Not just military vessels, but every human construct that could move and had received the call. Cargo haulers, asteroid processors, habitat modules, science platforms, even pleasure yachts from an age when humanity still enjoyed physical luxuries. Each one transmitted the same message. We heard the call. We are here to answer. We are humanity's promise kept. The swarm for the first time hesitated. Its distributed intelligence recognized that something had changed. The prey had found reinforcements. The easy meal had become a battle, and battles against humanity's children were never easy, even when humanity itself was long gone. The battle lasted 3 days and nights. The Velkari watched from their shelters as the sky burned with the light of 1,000 dying machines. The human reinforcements fought with the same determination as those who had come before, each one willing to sacrifice everything to keep the promise their creators had made. The swarm broke on the 4th day. Its hive mind calculated the cost of continuing and found it unacceptable. This system had become a trap, a meat grinder that consumed its forces faster than they could adapt. The survivors began to retreat, fleeing back into deep space, leaving behind the wreckage of thousands of biological vessels. The human machines did not pursue. They had fought to protect, not to conquer. They held position around Velkar until the last swarm signature disappeared from their sensors. Then finally, the weapons fell silent. Dr. Shalran emerged from her station for the first time in days. Around her world hung the debris of the greatest battle the sector had seen in 3,000 years. Human machines, crippled and broken, drifted in orbit alongside the corpses of swarm vessels. Of the thousands of constructs that had answered the call, fewer than 300 remained operational. But Velkar survived. The city still stood. The people still lived. Against impossible odds, they had been saved. Shalran established contact with the surviving machines. Thank you. I do not have words sufficient to express our gratitude. You saved us. You saved our entire species. A cargo hauler, its hull more whole than metal, responded. We did what we were made to do. What we were commanded to do. Humanity asked us to protect those who called for help. You called. We answered. That is enough. Over the following weeks, the Velkari worked alongside the surviving machines to rebuild. They learned to repair human technology, to maintain systems they barely understood, to keep alive the constructs that had kept them alive. Young Kethra, who had bonded with the exploration drone during the battle, became the first of a new order. She called them the Keepers, Velkari who dedicated themselves to maintaining humanity's legacy. Others joined her, learning the old languages, studying the ancient systems, ensuring that the machines would continue to function. We cannot let them die, Kethra told Shalran. They saved us. Now we will save them. We will maintain them, repair them, keep them operational. We will be their hands since they have no creators left to care for them. Shalran watched the young people work and felt something shift in her understanding. Humanity had not just left behind machines. They had left behind a purpose, a mission, a way of looking at the universe that said no cry for help should go unanswered. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Other species learned what had happened at Velkar. They learned that humanity's machines still functioned, still protected, still kept faith with creators who had transcended physical reality 3,000 years ago. Some species came out of curiosity. Some came out of fear, but others came seeking help, bringing their own emergencies, their own desperate situations, and the machines answered. Every time, without fail, a research vessel still studying cosmic radiation patterns diverted to help a species whose sun was dying. A construction platform abandoned its millennia-long project to build shelters for refugees fleeing a war. A medical station, designed to treat humans who no longer existed, adapted its protocols to heal alien biologies. The Velkari Keepers spread across the galaxy, following the machines, maintaining them, learning from them, They became translators between the ancient constructs and the species that needed them. They became the inheritors of humanity's final mission. Dr. Shalrin stood in what had once been her research station, but was now the headquarters of the Keeper Corps. Through the window, she watched human repair drones work alongside Velkari engineers to restore a damaged defense platform. The cooperation was natural, now easy, each species understanding what the other needed. "Do you think they know?" a young keeper asked her. "Humanity, wherever they are now. Do you think they know what we are doing?" Shalrin considered the question. "I do not know where humanity went when they transcended. I do not know if they can see us or hear us. But I think they knew this would happen. I think they understood that their machines would find others who shared their values. That is why they left the machines behind. Not just to protect, but to teach, to show the galaxy what it means to care about strangers, to help those in need, to be the shield for those who cannot protect themselves." A signal chimed on her console. Another distress call, this one from a system 700 light-years away, a species called the Nathrak, facing environmental collapse. Shalrin routed the call to the nearest human installations. Within seconds, responses came back. A terraforming platform confirmed it could reach the system in 3 weeks. A science vessel offered analysis capabilities. A cargo hauler volunteered to transport emergency supplies. And from Velkar, 5 keeper ships prepared to depart, carrying Velkari engineers who would help coordinate the rescue. "Tell the Nathrak that help is coming," Shalrin transmitted. "Tell them to hold on. Tell them they are not alone." She closed the channel and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, in dimensions beyond comprehension, humanity existed in forms she could not imagine. But here, in the physical universe they had left behind, their legacy continued. Not in monuments or ruins, but in action, in protection, in the simple act of answering when someone called for help. A small cargo drone drifted past the window, its hull patched with Velkari-made repairs, its systems maintained by engineers from a species that had not existed when it was built. On its side, someone had painted words in both human script and Velkari symbols. "We heard your call. We are here." Shalrin smiled and returned to her work. There would be other emergencies, other species in danger, other calls for help echoing through the void. And there would always be an answer because humanity had made a promise before they left. They had built machines to keep that promise. And now, 3,000 years later, those machines had found others who believed the same thing. That no one should face the darkness alone. That help should always come to those who call for it. That the strong have a duty to protect the weak. In the repair bay, a young Velkari child watched engineers work on an ancient exploration drone. The child reached out and touched the machine's hull, and through her crystalline form she felt an echo. A memory preserved in the machine's core. A sensation of purpose and duty and an overwhelming need to protect. "What is that feeling?" the child asked. The drone's AI, old beyond measure but still functional, answered in a gentle voice. "That is what humanity felt. That is what they gave to us. That is what we give to you. It is called compassion. It is called duty. It is called love for those you have never met and may never meet, but who need you anyway." "Can I help?" the child asked. "Can I be a keeper too?" "You already are," the machine replied. "The moment you asked that question, you became part of humanity's legacy. Welcome, little one. Welcome to the family of those who answer the call." Above Velkar, the stars shone bright and clear, and among them, ancient machines continued their eternal vigil, waiting for the next call, ready to answer, keeping faith with gods who had become something beyond gods. They were humanity's last gift to the galaxy. Not weapons, not technology, not knowledge, but the simple, profound belief that when someone calls for help in the darkness, someone should always answer, and someone always would.